In the ancient savannas of prehistoric Africa, where massive herds roamed endless grasslands and survival required both courage and wisdom, there lived a boy named Kato. He was 11 winters old, small for his age, but quick and clever. His people were nomadic hunters who followed the great migrations, living in harmony with the land's rhythms. Kato's grandfather was the tribe's storyteller and keeper of wisdom, teaching that all creatures deserved respect, for the land belonged to everyone equally. That morning began with unusual sounds echoing across the plains, desperate trumpeting that carried for miles. Kato was gathering firewood at the edge of an acacia grove when he heard it. The sound was different from normal elephant calls. This wasn't communication or warning. This was pure distress, the sound of something in terrible trouble. His grandfather had taught him to recognize such calls, to understand the language of suffering that transcends species. Kato dropped his firewood and ran toward the sound. His small legs carried him swiftly through tall golden grass, past scattered thorn bushes, toward a rocky ravine system that cut through the plains. As he ran, the trumpeting grew louder and more desperate, joined now by deeper calls, adult elephants responding but unable to help. When Kato reached the ravine edge and looked down, his heart nearly stopped at what he saw. Below, in a narrow section of the ravine where flash floods had carved deep channels through rock, a baby elephant had become trapped. The calf was perhaps 2 years old, standing barely 1.5 meters tall. It had somehow fallen or climbed down into a crevice between two large boulders. The space had seemed passable at first, but as the calf moved deeper, trying to find a way through, the rocks narrowed, wedging around its body like a vise. Now it was completely stuck, unable to move forward or backward. Its small trunk waved frantically in the air, and its cries were heartbreaking. Above the ravine, an entire elephant herd of 15 adults surrounded the area. The calf's mother stood at the ravine edge directly above her baby, reaching down with her trunk, desperately trying to touch her calf, but the distance was too great. Other adults tried different angles, but the ravine was too deep and the rocks too unstable for their massive weight. Several had tried to descend and triggered small rock slides, actually making the situation worse by sending loose stones tumbling toward the trapped calf. Kato understood immediately that the elephants couldn't rescue their own. Their size, their greatest advantage in most situations, became a fatal limitation here. But a small human child might fit where adult elephants could not. The realization terrified him. These elephants were wild and desperate. A frightened elephant could kill him with one step. His parents would forbid this absolutely if they knew. But looking at that trapped baby, hearing its terrifying cries, seeing its mother's anguish, Kato couldn't walk away. He stood up on the ravine edge, making himself visible to the herd. Immediately, every adult elephant turned toward him. Several took aggressive steps forward, ears spread wide in threat displays, trunks raised. They saw a human, a potential threat to an already endangered baby. The mother trumpeted a warning so loud it physically pushed air against Kato's chest. He could have run, should have run. Instead, he did something his grandfather had taught him during countless stories around the fire. He sat down cross-legged on the ground, making himself smaller, non-threatening. He placed his hands palm up on his knees, a gesture of openness and peace. Then he began to hum, a low, rhythmic sound his grandfather used to calm frightened animals. It was part lullaby, part meditation, completely non-aggressive. The elephants watched him with intense suspicion, but didn't charge. Kato continued humming, not moving, barely breathing, for several long minutes. Slowly, gradually, the elephant's aggressive postures relaxed slightly. Ears lowered marginally. Trunks dropped from raised positions. The mother elephant, still frantic, watched Kato closely with intelligent eyes. Kato stood up very slowly, still humming. He pointed at himself, then at the trapped calf below, then made a pulling motion with his arms, trying to communicate. "I want to help. I can fit down there. Let me try." The mother elephant's small eyes studied him with an intensity that was almost human. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, incredibly, she took one step backward. Not far, just one step. Permission, or at least permission to try. Kato approached the ravine edge carefully, keeping his movements slow and predictable. He found a spot where large rocks created natural steps downward. He began to climb down, testing each foothold carefully. The ravine wall was steep and loose,